This brings us to secret 4. Truth is subjective. People like to put truth and fact together. It's not the same thing. Fact means that we have evidence for this. This is how it happens according to our evidence. Truth is very subjective. Truth is from a particular person's perspective on how they interpret the evidence from the facts. And that's something that we've learned over time. So for example, let's look at this quiz here. When it starts getting colder, geese fly south for the winter. That's what we've been told. That's how we've learned it. That's not what I'm disputing here. If you've looked up and you've seen the geese, they fly in that V formation, right? They're in that V formation. But what's odd about that is that you'll notice that there's always one line of the V longer than the other. Do you know why that is? Because there's more geese in it. Yes, it's just a joke. The point is that you're looking at two different things here, fact and truth. The truth is there's more geese in it. The truth is the line is longer. The fact is the evidence that we've gotten together, that we've collected in order to determine that one line is indeed longer. And the joke is because of the intersection of fact and truth. That's why it becomes a joke. Because people are always thinking and trying to figure out, why is it? Could it be the wind speed? Could it be in order to protect themselves from the elements? There's a lot of reasons that people like to come to when they try to figure this out. And the joke part of it is the fact that, and this is why I'm telling you this, is because you realize on some fundamental level that truth and fact are not the same thing. Okay, it's not really our fault. Our brains were made to do this. And it doesn't help that as social creatures, human beings are basically raised from little on to get these conflicting messages between truth and fact. As a matter of fact, that these conflicting messages have helped us form who we are, but they've also helped damage how we understand things. Now, if we are going to understand security, we have to look at the evidence and get the facts. We can't look for truth in security. We need to find facts in security, which means that we can't be subjective about it. To a degree, at some point you have to be, because you have to have empathy, you have to see how other people feel secure from a particular solution, a particular answer, but it's not the same as actually being secure, which is the fact part of it. So as children, we start with conflicting messages. You get the whole don't talk to strangers, but then it's okay to talk to policemen, firemen, your teacher, they're all there to help you. Don't take candy from strangers, but hello, Halloween, go out and collect candy from strangers. And then on top of it, we get all the advertising. I mean, we are just inundated by advertising constantly. You could call it false advertising, but you'll see that there's a difference between truth and fact here. Yogurt that they sell that's 97% fat-free is true. What's also true is that whole milk is 3% milk fat, which means that this yogurt is actually whole milk. You see some products sold that boost your immune system to prevent colds, which of course, again, there might be some truth to that, but the fact is that colds are a particular virus, and if your immune system doesn't happen to know that particular virus, if it doesn't recognize it, it can't fight it, in which case you're going to get the cold anyways. And then, of course, the other things they do, you'll see companies will hide behind what we call soft definitions, or will actually outright change the definitions of particular words so that they can advertise a particular way, which is also very confusing as you grow up. You're so inundated by this, you see this so often, that it might even be something that you remember. And the more that you remember, the more you hear it, it starts to feel more like a truth. For example, you might hear, this is part of a complete breakfast. This is a complete security solution. Complete does not mean that's it. It does not mean just like a complete breakfast is not a nutritious breakfast. It doesn't make it right. Complete doesn't mean this is the right thing. I mean, as a matter of fact, complete pretty much means nothing in that regard. However, we hear it so often that it becomes a truth for us. And then complete tends to mean true or factual, and this is how it is. But that is all very subjective. So what we end up doing is that how we deal with these things is that most of the time we just accept it. We accept that most industries have our best interests, governments do. Everybody has our best interest, because why would they want to hurt or lose their customers? So when industries lie to us directly, they cover it up and we let them do it. We see it as normal. The thing is that we tend to be accepting that people make mistakes, even companies. We see them as individuals. That's how our minds work. We see things as everything has a risk to it. We knew the risks when we chose to eat that cereal all our life, or there's some guy who ended up eating 2 bags of microwave popcorn every day for like 40 years, and now he's got all sorts of health problems. And of course, there's some lawsuit behind it and everything, but he knew the risks. He accepted the risks when he was eating 2 bags of microwave popcorn every day. That nutrition-wise, it couldn't be the right thing to do, but he did it anyways. And then at some point when he got very sick from it, he looked at the company and said, hey, why would you do this, And of course, they're going to have their defense to that. But we do this rationalization. Somebody's always going to get hurt. There's always going to be somebody. Somebody wins the lottery. Somebody dies in the car crash. We rationalize everything. And this comes from the fact that we confuse fact and truth in our minds. And this is important because when we start looking at secrets of security and why we don't have security the way we want to, or why these products don't give us security, if you just look at the marketing, if you look at what you're being told by the consultants, by the vendors, you'll see this confusion between fact and truth. And you're able then to identify it and understand what you're actually getting. One of the main tactics here to do is that when you talk to a vendor is get very specific answers. What does this do? Okay, but what does this do? Yes, it protects me against blah, blah, but what is it doing? And at some point, we find that some vendors are very clear and that they outline how they do this and what their means of protection are. And some will just tell you that it's their secret sauce, in which case, again, you're accepting the risk for accepting that as a truth, that truth as a fact. So little thing that I like to do to show people to understand this is that, especially in the security industry, see if you recognize this. If I give you some of the truths that they tell you. They tell you you need annual or twice annual reviews, that you should reapply protection every 8 hours, that you should only use industry certified products for best results, that the problem is caused by bad habits, by people with bad habits, bad hygiene, bad whatever they want to say. It's the fault of the person. The person is the fault for that. There's high-tech solutions, and technology brings more and more and better solutions. And there's consumer websites with public information, but it's incomplete. Even the government ones, they always focus on the same generic advice. And if you start thinking of this, and how security and the security industry follows exactly these things. And this advice and this kind of thing that they tell you, right down to the fact that if you challenge that advice, you're crazy or a conspiracy theorist, because that's how it is. Let me take it a little bit further. Let's go to the next part. So we know that that sounds like the security industry as it is. And you can see now here that there's a mix-up of truth and fact. So any work that you get done is really expensive, generally. It has to do with inspecting, cleaning up, patching, rebuilding sometimes. One of the things you notice is that reviews are difficult for the average person to follow. Basically, even difficult to comprehend. You have to just believe what they're telling you. And one of the other things you see in this industry is that there's very few regulations with requirements for the general public. And if you want, you could even say that there's even fewer requirements or even understanding on how adults are supposed to handle this for children. There's a lot of confusion out there. And of course, one of the big kickers is that you can't find good insurance for it. Insurance rarely covers everything. It's expensive. And yeah, a lot of times you're just left on your own to cover it. The problem is yours. So if you look at this kind of industry and you say to yourself, well, if security does that, how do we live with that? I mean, here it sounds so obvious. It sounds like a scam. And the reason why people accept this in security is because we grew up with exactly that. If you look at the dental industry and what you do with brushing your teeth and how you can go through those points that I just showed you, and it matches exactly with the dental industry. So when people say, how can you believe that about security? How can you fall for that? What the security vendors are telling you, we were raised to fall for that. That's what we've been told. And not just the security industry. It's been many industries as we were growing up have been telling us the same truths as facts. And that's why we tend to fall for it. So of course, truth is subjective. That's the secret, which isn't much of a secret, but the more you get involved in how security works and the more we researched it, it became more and more clear. Again, not our fault, we were raised that way, but the moment you're aware of it, then you can start looking for it.